I want to start off the video by saying that if you already have a sales team that doesn't comply with what you tell them, what you ask them, changing that behavior is not going to be easy. So if you're looking for an easy, quick fix, you're not going to get that in this video. You're going to get something that works. So if that's what you're looking for, you can click off the video now and keep dealing with those compliance issues. However, if you're willing to put in the work to have a team of superstars in your company, I'll cover how I got a team at a multi-seven-figure company to comply by setting proper expectations when they're joining, as well as managing the existing team members by using different reinforcements to build trust with that team and lead your company to the level that it deserves to run at. Whether that's 6 figures, 7 figures, or multiple 8 figures. Number one, you need to hire A players. Sounds simple, sounds really easy to do, but as you and I know, it's not. So with hiring A players, you got to know when to hire, right? Are you hiring at 0 to 10K per month? Are you hiring at 10 to 30K per month? Where are you revenue-wise on this scale? Are you above this, right? So if you're hiring people at the wrong time, what's going to happen is they're never going to hit the expectations. They're never going to hit KPIs, and they're never going to hit the expectations they have in their mind for the income that they can make. And they're going to leave, and they're not going to obey anything you tell them, because after 1, 2, 3 weeks, their belief system, right, these salespeople get sold onto working with you. And 2, 3 weeks in, they see that it's impossible to achieve the desired outcome that they want. What are they going to do? They're going to stop obeying you, they're going to leave you, and you're going to have a problem managing them. Same thing, by the way, as clients, right? If you have clients and these clients don't really get the expectations that you promised them, and you're telling them to do this, to do that, after a while, after that pattern repeats and they see that everything you say doesn't really lead to anything, right? Your promises are just blank promises. That client's really going to stop listening to you. They're not really going to take you seriously. And then you again have to deal with people not listening to you, with people ignoring your texts, with people ignoring, you asking them to book a one-on-one call with them, right? That's not going to happen if you hire the right people and you hire them at the right time, right? So 0 to 10K per month, you should be off with a VA. Don't really need anything else. 10, 30, you got a setter, DM setter, a hybrid setter. I have more videos on hiring, these teams. 30 to 50K, you get your first closer. You get yourself out of the sales process. You stop taking sales calls, right? Or you keep taking sales calls, but you give yourself more time to actually manage the entire system that's running, right? Because things are going to break. When you're at this point and you want to keep scaling, things are going to start breaking. And if your entire time is dedicated to sales calls, that's impossible to manage. 50K per month plus, depending on your situation, but this is where you start getting multiple closers, multiple setters, at least multiple setters. That's the minimum. And you can still do this with 1 or 2 closers. And usually you can get by with 1, just depending on how many calls you're booking and obviously your KPIs, closing rate, everything like that, right? So this is how you get on track to start hitting results like this. Step 2 is actually creating the proper onboarding process and setting the frame for every sales rep that joins your company. Super important. This is something you do in the training. Here's DM setter training that I'll just quickly show you here. So DM setter training needs to set all the frames, right? It's like onboarding a client. What do you do when you have horrible onboarding with a client, or what happens when you promise a client to onboard them and then you kind of ghost them for a few days, or you don't really have a good onboarding process? That breaks the frame, and now the client is basically getting a service that's below their expectations. They're a lot more likely to drop out, refund, charge back. All those things happen. You set the frame when the actual sales rep joins the company, right? In the trainings, in the SOPs. And another thing you do is you give them an exact list of their tasks, okay? So when someone joins the company, you make sure they know exactly what they're doing every single day where they're working. So I'll show you this as well here. Here's a example tracker, right? They can check this off every day. I did all of this, right? I did this all at the end of the day. I did this at the start of the day. Super simple, but this is what gets that framing going right from the start. And it puts a system in place where you don't have to worry about this stuff later, and you don't have to chase people down because of this later, because they have a frame of what it's like to work with you. With existing team members, right, we're talking about both. You might have existing sales reps that disobey you and you have trouble managing. You need to set new standards and update the pay structure to match those standards. That's the best way I've personally found to do it. And this means positively reinforcing them and potentially having some negative reinforcement with their pay structure if they don't listen to you, right? And we're going to get into this in a bit here as well. But before we do, just to kind of brief on, reinforcement, the different types of reinforcement, positive, negative, how it works. The number one thing you need to do when someone joins the company, this is also in the onboarding process, is test their personality. With this personality test, you've probably seen this before. It's like one of the biggest ones online. It's completely free too.
With this personality test, you'll now understand what is this person, what moves them, and you're going to be able to use that and take advantage of that to better help this person perform well in your company. Now, with reinforcement, there's positive and there's negative reinforcement, as we all know. Positive, usually from my experience and really from managing just sales teams and running these companies, positive reinforcement will always work better. It's going to outperform negative reinforcement, but that doesn't mean there's not room for both. They're not mutually exclusive. They both work. Positive reinforcement is rewarding a positive behavior in order to encourage it and make sure that it happens again in the future. It means that you're going to be boosting morale of the sales rep, the sales team, depending on the dynamic there. You're going to be encouraging a growth mindset from the team, which is so important. Reducing turnover. You don't want reps leaving all the time. That's very painful when you always have to search for new reps because either one doesn't perform or a rep leaves, which kind of stems from this entire issue. Like it's a core problem with your leadership. It also fosters team collaboration, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. If sales reps can drive each other to do better and improve, then it almost takes you out of the process and makes that entire management process a lot easier, right? Because they all have equity in growing together. Negative reinforcement occurs when something unpleasant or uncomfortable is removed, right? This could create a fear-based environment with your sales team. It could create short-term compliance that doesn't work in the long run. And maybe you've experienced some of this where you basically give a sales rep a stick for not really listening, not obeying whatever you tell them. And then it actually works, but then it kind of ends up flipping around on you. Reinforcement does not always work, right? People want to get rewarded. People don't want to get beat down. So now how do you actually use these? How do you implement these in terms of bonus structures? How do you implement these in pay structures and make these work to actually move your sales team and make sure the sales team obeys you and you can be that leader that you want to be? Once you understand what this person is, like what kind of person is it, you can have some bonuses that aren't money-based bonuses because those bonuses will sometimes be the best bonuses possible, right? So if you know that there's a guy on your team who has a family and they're already making 15 grand a month, something like, a few grand in a bonus, it could be great. But what if you got him a vacation that's going to cost the same amount with his family? You got him tickets to Mexico, for example, right? That's a lot bigger for that guy, and that's a better bonus than money in a lot of cases. It obviously depends on the person and, again, what makes the move, which you need to understand through data. The favorite bonus that I love to do is a future-based bonus, right? So a future-based bonus is where you're not doing it that month. So if someone closes 15 deals, you're not giving them a check for $1,000 at the end of the month. Instead, you're increasing their commissions for the following month. What this does is instead of just giving them that money there and letting them settle down because they just got a fat check, right? They outperformed the entire team. They're going to be working double next month to make the most out of that additional commission that they get from the future-based bonus. Now, you can also do weekly bonuses, monthly bonuses. You can do spin the wheel. This is for the entire sales team. And again, this entire thing, the bonus structure, it was reviewed here in this Pay Your Team video. Very helpful video if this is something you were looking into. With the closers, some more optional bonuses. You can pay an extra 1 to 3% for overtime or for deals closed on Saturdays and Sundays if you want to have deal flow on Saturdays and Sundays, which I absolutely suggest. You can also have bonus per X amount of deals closed every month. If, for example, someone closes 9 deals, they get comped for 10 deals instead of those 9 deals. Number 3, lead by example. You need to keep yourself accountable the same way you're keeping your team accountable. And by the way, there's still things you can do if you can't keep yourself accountable, right? So if you have an end of the day report, if you're closing your own deals and you're still involved in the sales process as a business owner, make sure you fill this form out and make sure you make these closers or these setters know that you've done your due diligence for that day and fill the form out. This is such a huge problem. Setters, closers not filling out their EOD report. Set the example. Be the standard to lead by. And when you do set an example, make sure they know that you're setting that example, right? Make sure they know that you've completed the form. Now, obviously, not all of us have time to do this, right? You might be at a point where this just doesn't make any sense. So in this case, you're going to praise the actual sales team members that do this. And there's always going to be, if you have a bigger sales team, there's always going to be that one team member, those 2, 3 team members, even if the entire team is not compliant, there's going to be that 1 or 2 people that will comply, that will follow everything you do. You can add bonuses for even things like this, right? If you fill out your EOD, you're going to get this bonus. If you do it every day, you're going to get this small bonus. And why would someone not do that if they're getting praised for it, right? But you can also have negative reinforcement, right? If you don't fill out your EOD, we don't know what stats you're getting. We don't know what deals you're closing, what deals you're setting. So you're actually going to get a little bit less. You're going to get this taken away from you. If you want people to show up to calls, always show up to calls on time as well. If you're struggling to get people on group calls in the first place, the team's too far gone, it's just not working, get people on one-on-one calls. This is something that works really well because a lot of the times, you might not notice, but your sales reps might just not be able to make that time, or it might not be the best time for them to make this group call. So start by having one-on-one calls with them, hold them accountable, hold yourself accountable, show up to those calls on time, set a standard, build rapport, right? Again, you're selling your team members on this idea of obeying everything you do and obeying you as a sales team lead or as a business owner. There's a storm now, so hopefully you can still hear me. Come back to the personality test once again, right? You need to hold these people accountable for showing up to the calls, for showing up to the EOD, and doing it every single day by knowing what makes them tick. This is so important. It's vital, right? Because if you can praise them on what they would need to be praised on based on the personality type, if you can punish them and have that negative reinforcement based on what makes them tick there as well and what they don't like, right? That's going to be able to create those behaviors that you want for the sales team to comply with you. With salespeople, something I found out is stop trying to argue on emotions with these salespeople and try to shift their mindset, shift their beliefs by talking about their performance, how they need to do this, do this. Show them the numbers. If you have multiple people on your sales team, or if you're selling on your own offer and you're the control, show that salesperson the numbers to make them understand logically that they're not doing well. Don't try to play on their emotions. Next thing you need to do, and this could be both used for positive and negative reinforcement, is set performance deadlines that will only be possible if they act on your feedback. So if you hit this amount of sales, if you hit this amount of calls within 2 weeks, you get bonus. Or you will get let go if you don't hit it. Now, the last thing you need to do is revert back to risk. It's called the risk reversal, right? You do it with your clients all the time. So why are you not doing it with your sales reps when you're trying to get them to implement new strategies, new ideas, new ways of closing calls, new way of setting meetings? You should minimize the risk just like you would try to minimize the risk for a potential customer, right? So set time frames on testing your ideas. If it doesn't make you more sales, or if this doesn't make you more money in the next 7 days, in the next 14 days, and you follow through on every single word that I tell you to follow through on, you can scrap the idea entirely, and you can even offer a bonus with this. This management and this leadership, make sure you're putting that leadership and you're giving that leadership to the people below you so you can actually scale your leadership and scale this entire leadership system with sales team leads, with sales managers, and eventually, when your company is big enough, with a sales director who can implement on all these steps himself in your business. If you need to understand how to actually pay salespeople depending on your company, depending on your metrics, watch this video. If you need one-on-one support with implementing these ideas, join the school. It should be linked below. It's like $37 a month. It's pretty cheap. You get one-on-one access to me through DMs, and you also get some calls with me on top of that.